Can I have a motion to reconvene the public session?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank Ms. Trempe. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're back in public session. Our apologies for the delay. We had some work that went over in executive session. Before we get into the regular board meeting, I'd like to just make a statement about the way that we do things. We figure it's the beginning of the year so that everyone's informed of what happens behind the scenes with the Board of Education. So I want to take this opportunity to explain a bit about we, as your Board of Education, do behind the scenes to prepare for our monthly board meetings. If you've attended or watched previous meetings, you may have noticed that we usually all vote yes or aye to the board business. We make it look easy, but it doesn't always begin that way. We have a process that we go through before we sit down here each month. So here's a little look behind the curtain. I swear it's not fisticuffs, usually. We receive weekly updates from Mr. Capello that tells us what's going on at the schools throughout the district. The board members are assigned to 2 standing committees, which meet several times each year. These committees are Facilities Transportation, Policy Legislation, Curriculum Student Activities, and Finance Personnel. These committees make preliminary decisions that are passed on to the full board to vote on during our meetings. We occasionally form ad hoc committees when we need a small group to make decisions on items that are not part of our routine business, such as union negotiations. We have the agenda available to us the Friday before our meeting usually, so we can read through it beforehand. Should we have questions about any agenda item, we email, call, or text the appropriate person. Different people up here are in charge of different parts of the district administration. For general questions, we contact the superintendent, Mr. Capello. For curriculum, Dr. Goldburn. For special ed, Mrs. Llewellyn. And for finance questions, we get in touch with Mrs. Livingood. They're all very good about answering our questions ahead of the meeting, so we all come in with a clear understanding of any agenda items. So that's why when we sit down here each month, we sound like a well-oiled machine. We work together to ensure the decisions we make are thoughtful and in the best interests of the children of the district. So thank you for listening, and on to tonight's business. All right, so we are starting at 4, routine business. We have the board secretary report for May and June of 2024, the treasurer's report for May and June of 24, the receipts and appropriation adjustments for May and June of 24, the monthly transfer report for May and June, the high school activities report for June and July, the food service management for June and July, the certified bill list, it's a little slow. I'm pretty sure certified, but yes. Oh, we're slow. One below.
It's really slow.
Yeah, you're getting stuck.
Yeah.
For August.
Certified bill list for also for June and July. I'm sorry, for the period ending August 21st of 2024. And the approval of minutes, it is slow.
Yeah, June 11th. It's the public.
There we go. It's the
waiting.
internet issues with board docs.
Okay.
So executive goes.
The executive session number 1 on June 11th, executive session number 2 on June 11th, and the minutes of the regular board meeting on June 11th. So Ms. Sycone, can I have a motion to approve section 4, items A through H?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Mr. Meeker?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Moving on to section 5, routine matters. We have the enrollment report as of August 23 of 2024, the health report for June of 24, the fire alarm report for June and July of 24, the crisis drill report for June and July, and and the superintendent's monthly report. Mr. Capello.
All right, thank you, and I'll reiterate, just so members of the public know, since we are pulling the curtain back, we do use a service called Board Docs. That's how you access our public agenda, and I don't know if there's just a run on opening board meetings nationwide right now, but Board Docs seems to be having a slight outage, so we're going to transition to our paper copies for the duration of the meeting for anything that might be listed. If you are following along, do we have paper copies available? Excellent, thank you. Welcome. This is one of my favorite times of year. Last time we met, we were wrapping up another wonderful school year, and here we are about to launch. I have that excitement in the pit of my stomach. We are 1 week out, ready to do this. It's been an awfully long summer, a lonely summer here administratively without our staff and without our students. We are very excited, and it's happening now. So last Thursday, we had our first kind of welcome back kickoff event. It was our kindergarten orientation. They do such a nice job at the New Albany schools, so thank you to the administrative and leadership team and all of our kindergarten teachers for welcoming now another class of over 200 kindergartners, many of whom it is their first experience in public school, and it's always such a wonderful and well-received event. So thank you and great job. Yesterday was a huge day in the district. It started with our transportation orientation. We welcomed our drivers, our assistant secretaries from the transportation department back for their welcome back meeting, some safety training, and some meeting with our leadership team here in the district. They are ready to go, and our buses are ready to roll. So thank you to our leadership team over in transportation for putting on a great event yesterday. Yesterday, we also welcomed our third graders to the Rush School, so thank you to the staff of our third grade teachers, Mrs. Mealy in her new role as principal. It went off without a hitch, and we are excited to welcome over 200 third graders to the Elmer Rush School. At the same time-ish, Mrs. DeSimone and the admin team and the sixth grade teachers were here at the middle school, welcoming another batch of over 200 sixth graders to start their middle school experience, and that was also another very well-run event, so thank you to everybody who participated. And then finally, last night was our freshman picnic. That started in the afternoon, and then our freshmen were joined by our parents as they start and embark on their last experience here in Cinnaminson schools at Cinnaminson High School. So wonderful job by all of our teachers and our administrative leaders and our maintenance and custodial staff for making sure that those events all went off without a hitch. Today is another great day in our district. Every year, if you've been to this meeting, we talk about welcoming new staff members, many of whom are here this evening tonight. We'll get to maybe get introduced to some of them. But today was new teacher orientation. It's a 2-day program that started today with some training from our admin, some icebreakers. I understand that the bus tour was wonderfully well received. Whoever ran that did a nice job acclimating our new staff. This is such a wonderful town, and those of you who grew up and have lived here maybe even take for granted all the wonderful things and the rich history that's in this town. So it's a great opportunity for teachers to learn about, and teachers, nurses, counselors, I'll use as educators kind of as a general statement, just learn about Cinnaminson and all of the different aspects that make this a great place to work and a great place to live. So that was day one, and day two, we're going to get a little bit more into the weeds of the education side of welcoming new staff and our expectations here as a district. And then Thursday is a big day as we welcome back all of our staff. Many of our staff members have been in their classrooms preparing for the school year. If any of you have educators at home, you know that the school year does not begin the day the students arrive. It begins well in advance of that. So we are usually kind of tamping our teachers back, chomping at the bit to get into their classrooms to get set up and get organized for the school year. So we're really looking forward to welcoming them back with some fanfare on Thursday. And then, as many of you know, Tuesday, 1 week from today, is the big show where we will welcome 2,950-ish students, our largest population yet, back for the 2024-2025 school year. Summer has been a busy time, and I have a lot of thank yous to extend to some stakeholders in our district who help keep things running when the students and staff are away. First, we do have programs that run in the summer. I'd like to thank all of our teachers, ESPs, and administrators who helped run things like our ESY program, our Rush Camp Kickstart program. They run throughout the end of June and into July. Of course, our buildings and grounds staff, the summer months are really their busiest time of year. Just looking around this room, the last time we were in this room, number one, it was very, very hot. The lighting is much brighter. The floors you can see your reflection off of, and this is kind of an indication of the quality work that they've been doing all summer throughout the district. They usually tend to do their larger project work, and we had some projects happen this summer. If you have students here in the middle school, you may have gotten to take a peek during sixth grade orientation at the new culinary room. It has been completely gutted and revamped and ready to welcome students for another generation of family and consumer science classes. We continued an effort that started 8 years ago now of maintaining and refreshing our classrooms. We've been doing 4 classrooms a year, and when I say we've been refreshing the classrooms, it means putting down new floor, doing some asbestos remediation, installing new VCT floor tiles, new LED high-efficiency lighting, putting fresh coat of paint on the walls, and just kind of giving them an overhaul and sprucing them up, because a clean, bright space to learn is really great for everybody, our kids, and we've spent so much money investing in our schools. We pride ourselves in how we maintain them and creating great educational spaces for students. If you get a chance on your way out, the doors may or may not be open, but you can peek in through the window. I advise you to check out the new floor in the Cinnaminson Middle School. It was refurbished, resurfaced.
Jim?
I'm sorry, the gym floor was resurfaced, restriped, repainted, and it looks fantastic. HVAC projects, for those of you who frequent board meetings, you've heard some chatter about HVAC. It was our nemesis last year, but I feel like we're finally on the other side of it. We are enjoying 2 new HVAC units that were launched last week in this room and out in the hallway areas that surround this space. So we're very happy to have them online. A lot of prep work was done. If you've been to these meetings as well, you know that I've referenced certain square footage issues. We are moving forward with the addition of 2 learning cottages, one at the New Albany School and one at the Rush School, so both will have 3 cottages for an additional 2 classrooms. Mr. Tyndall and his team have been preparing, and as soon as we got the go-ahead from the Department of Education that our projects were approved, we're anticipating delivery of those units by the middle of September, and then we're doing the rest of that work in-house to get them online, and we hope to have them online as soon as possible and ready for our students to move into them. And finally, it was a multi-year project, but we put the last bit of work into the completion of the outdoor fueling system at the high school. So if you find yourself behind Cinnaminson High School, we took a multi-year project to dig up some end-of-life buried tanks, and now we've replaced it with an 8,000-gallon fueling tank with a canopy over it that should serve us for another generation of fueling buses. Another set of thank yous I'd like to, since we're talking about transportation staff, many of them worked this summer as well, transporting students back and forth to our ESY programs and some of our out-of-district students who are involved in placements throughout southern and central New Jersey. So thank you to all of our transportation staff members. Also like to thank Mr. Creel and his team from technology. They do the bulk of their project work and upgrades during the summer months, and make sure that our technology is ready for our staff and students to begin the school year. If anybody out there is looking for work, we would love to have you as a part of our team. Cinnaminson Schools is hiring, and we're actively searching for members of our community to join us as substitutes, ESPs, drivers, transportation aides, hallway supervisors. It is a great district to work for, and we'd love to have you. So look out for information that we'll be blasting throughout the community, outlining some of the needs that we still have as a district. Our high school liaison is here, and we'll hear from her for the first time in just a little bit, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but we are really excited that towards the end of summer, our athletes return to Cinnaminson High School. So if you've driven by the high school, you've seen them out there playing. Scrimmages have begun, and the official kickoff for our football band and cheerleaders happens this Thursday at, Mr. Gorman, 4 o'clock. The battle at the beach down in Ocean City. We are hopeful that we have a large contingent from Cinnaminson willing to make the trek down to Ocean City to open up the year and cheer on our football team, our marching band, and our cheerleaders as they start competitive competition. While I'm talking about the marching band, I do also want to give a shout out to our marching band, who will have their first home competition next Saturday. That is not something that we've hosted in the past, and we're really excited about hosting other bands from the area here on site in Cinnaminson. I'd like to extend congratulations to Miss Natasha Sigmund. She received the middle school music grant for the from the Peter R. Marshall Foundation, and with that she was awarded $1,250 that she can apply towards her program and continuing to build the vocal music program here at Cinnaminson Middle School with new equipment, new music, or other essential supplies for the success of her program. Congratulations also to CHS biology teacher, Mrs. Jen Alvarado, who was named the Outstanding Biology Teacher by the state of New Jersey by the National Association of Biology Teachers. So congratulations to Ms. Alvarado. For board members and the public, I wanted to put a couple of dates on your radar. Back to school night season is upon us as well. New Albany's will be on September 18th, Rush on September 17th, the middle school on September 26th, and the high school on September 25th. All of those events start around 6 o'clock, and details can be found on the Cinnaminson.com website. And with that, that is the superintendent's report for the board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Capello. Mr. Bromhall, can I have a motion to approve Section 5, items A through E?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kenny. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Mr. Evans?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. We're moving on to Section 6, the student rep reports, and this year we have with us from the high school, Gwen Sachonsky. Did I pronounce that correctly?
It's Chikonsky.
Okay. Chikonsky. Thank you.
Yeah.
I hopefully will not get it wrong again.
I'll hope.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gwen Chikonsky. I'm the Board of Education Liaison for the 2024-2025 school year. I'm very excited to start this new position, and I look forward to everything I get to accomplish this year on Student Council. Fall sports teams have started practice for their 2024 seasons. Starting off with the football team, they're ready to go and looking forward to their opening game against Ocean City High School's Red Raiders on Thursday, August 29th in Ocean City at Battle of the Beach. For the cheerleaders, the squad attended UCA camp. They worked so hard and improved their skills with UCA staff. Congratulations to Olivia Ruggieri for winning Jumping Queen. The varsity cheerleaders also used some of their summer break to volunteer their time to teach the youth cheerleaders K through 8 grades new stunts. They worked so hard and did a fantastic job with the youth cheerleaders. For the boys soccer team, their season started with a 5-0 victory over Ocean City in their first scrimmage. They're looking forward to a great season. The girls soccer team attended a week of camp in the beginning of August, and they're ready to kick off their season. The field hockey team started their season yesterday with a scrimmage at Haddon Township. For girls tennis, the team has started practice and is getting ready for their season by having Wacky Dress-Up Week. The boys cross-country team attended camp 2 weeks ago for training and heard from some fantastic speakers. They also had time to make friends. Preseason started last week. The girls volleyball team had its first scrimmage yesterday versus Princeton Day School. They're looking forward to a great season. On Monday, August 26th, the members of the class of 2028 attended the annual freshman orientation. The CHS pep band and cheerleaders greeted the students as they arrived. The student council and class officers provided fun activities, and the students received their class of 2028 t-shirts designed and produced by CHS graduate Jack Shallow. The class concluded the event by gathering for a barbecue before joining their parents for the final presentation by Mr. Gorman and members of the CHS staff. We are excited to welcome our newest CHS students. The NHS has started their year strong, helping freshmen and new students acclimate to school throughout the building during freshman orientation. Oh, that's it.
All right, thank you, Gwen.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good. You'll do great all year long.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we're moving on to Section 7, a presentation from Dr. Goldburn and Mrs. Suzanne Fisher.
There we go. Hi, good evening, everybody. We have, this time of the year, do a couple of presentations based on assessment results from the previous school year. And this evening, we'll be talking about two tests that our students took last year. The first being the New Jersey Graduation Proficiency Assessment, which is New Jersey's exit exam, if you will. And my colleague, Mrs. Fisher, our Director of World Languages, ESL, and Music, will be going over the Access Test results, which is the test that is taken by our English language learners. So the NJGPA, as we may or may not know, was resurrected 3 years ago. Many, many years ago, students used to take a test called the the HSPA, which they needed to pass to graduate from high school. New Jersey is one of a small collection of states that still has an assessment requirement. You obviously have curricular requirements. You need 4 years of English, 4 years of phys ed, 3 years of math, attendance requirements. You need to be in school X number of days. New Jersey has a testing requirement for mathematics and for English. And this particular test is the first pathway to meeting that requirement. We received these score reports back in June. Families received their sons and daughters' reports shortly thereafter. And the results are here for you on these bar charts and also this table here. Back in 2022 was the first time this test was given, and you'll notice, and it would be no different in any other school district, you'll notice from 2022 to 2023, there was a dramatic jump. That's because after the first administration of this test, the New Jersey Department of Education lowered the score that was required to pass. In previous years, back when it was the PARCC test and students needed to pass that test to graduate, the score was a 725. And when this test was put back a few years ago, they were going to set the score at 725, and some legislators said that you're setting the bar too low, it needs to be 750. So across the state of New Jersey, you can see there, this is for English language arts, 40% of students in Cinnaminson passed it, 39% of students statewide passed the test. And in mathematics, it was similar numbers. So before the test was given in 2023, they returned that score, that passing cutoff, to 725, so most school districts saw a nice climb there. We went from 40 to 93% of students passed 2 years ago, and this past spring, with very little room to grow, the scores went up a little bit as well. 94% of our juniors last year passed this test. The state passing rate, 82%. It's always our goal, it's always our expectation here in Cinnaminson that we will exceed the state averages. Next slide is mathematics. The math scores in year one were actually slightly better than ELA, which is a rarity in New Jersey. Usually the English scores outpace math. But in year two, 2023, 68% of our students passed. This past March, 76% of our students passed, so we're pleased to see the continued growth. The statewide passing rate more or less flattened, though. It was 55% in 2023, a tiny bit below that last year, so glad to see continued improvement for our overall student body. When the No Child Left Behind Act was passed almost 20 years ago, it requires that schools don't just talk about the total population, but also look at individual subgroups that exist within the schools. Males and females, ethnicity, black, white, Asian, 2 or more races, students with disabilities, members of our English language learner community. If those subgroups have more than 10 or more people, we are to report those results publicly. So for English language arts, so this is 3 years. The black bar to the left is 2022, year one. The red bar is 2023. The gray bar is last March. We see the overall passing rates of those groups of students. So we have males and females, the 2 ones on the left, Hispanic, black, white student groups there, and their passing rates. There are other there are Asian students. We have students 2 or more races, but there were fewer than 10. So we don't have those on the bar chart there. Free and reduced lunch. In the state of New Jersey, economically disadvantaged is one of the categories that is reported, and in New Jersey, that is measured by students who are eligible or receiving free or reduced lunch. So you see the passing rates there. And then the last group on the right are students with an IEP, and we see from 2022 versus 23 and 24, a stark contrast in the percentage of students who passed the English language arts portion of the test. As I alluded to earlier, the math test is always and has always tended to be a bit more rigorous. Again, in Cinnaminson, 76% overall of our students in 2024 passed the math portion of the test. So we see there the males and female more or less, hovering around 75. Hispanic students, slightly more than 50%. African American students, near 60. White students, around 75, 76. Free and reduced lunch, and students with IEPs on the bottom. Again, all the way to the right there. There is gradual improvement there, but obviously there's always work that can be done with any of these subgroups or when we dive deep and look at the data there. So this is the subgroup data. Again, other subgroups do exist. We have students in other groups, but again, there were fewer than 10 of them in that pool of students who took this test last March. So what do we do with this information? After we get the individual score reports, obviously we mail them with families. We have teachers coming back in 2 days, and they will be able to review this information as well about the students that they had in their classes. We also receive reports from the NJDOE that tell us, although they don't let you see the actual questions, they'll let you know that there was a question that correlated to this standard. And they'll tell you that this percentage of your students got it right, and statewide, this percentage of students got it right. So we look to see where there are areas where our students did not as well as we would have liked, see if there were areas in which we were below the state average, but that is laid out for us for all the questions in English language arts, and same for mathematics. Again, they never let you see the questions, but they let you know what standards were being addressed. Of all of the questions, there were only 3 questions out of 2 tests in which students from Cinnaminson were below average. And in all 3 cases, they were slightly below. One had to do with finding the volume of a spherical object. I'm sure that's what we all think about when we're at home. Graphing the square and cubed root of numbers. That was an Algebra 1 standard. And the other one was identifying the main idea of a primary source, which is usually something our students do in history class, where they look at a letter, a document, and they review that, trying to, again, identify what the main idea of that was. So those were the only 3 that stood out. So as we lead into March of 2025, our teachers, again, will review this information with the juniors as the testing time gets closer and closer. Students who may be in need of additional support, we offer after-school, lunchtime support for those students in the weeks and the months leading up to it, because this is truly, love it or hate it, a high-stakes test, because graduation is dependent on passing it. If a student is unsuccessful, I said it a few minutes ago, this is the first pathway. There are other alternate ways to meet this graduation requirement. New Jersey has identified a number of tests. You can see them up there. A lot of them have to do with the college admissions process, whereby if a student is unsuccessful on the NJGPA, if they were to take one of those tests, and it's English and mathematics, and they meet the minimum score that is set there, they would be able to meet that requirement. If they are not successful on the second pathway as well, there is a third pathway, which they would do during their senior year, called a portfolio, in which they would work with one of our math teachers, English teacher, depending on the subject, and they would work with them usually it takes about the first semester, working with students on the individual skills and standards that they need to be proficient in, and then a literal portfolio is shared with the NJDOE for those particular students who needed to access that third pathway. So we each year, by August 31st, need to release at a board meeting and then share back with the county office that we did so, a graduation report. So what I just shared with you are students who are seniors now. This report right here is for students who graduated last June. And we have to do a graduation report which talks about, in essence, what I just discussed on the previous slide. Did all of our students graduate? How many of them needed to take? Which ones needed to use the first pathway, the second pathway, the third, and so on and so forth. So last year, we had 207 students graduate from Cinnaminson High School. And the second row says the number of students who graduated under the substitute competency test. So this is a student who was not successful in NJGPA, but had the right score on the PSAT, or maybe the SAT. 4 students did that in English language arts, 41 in mathematics. The next one down is students who did so through the third pathway of the portfolio appeal, 5 in English, 15 in mathematics. The next row down is the number of students who received a diploma because they met the alternative requirements that were established in their IEP. And we see there 12 and 16. And the next two rows are the number of students who were denied graduation. We were 207 out of 207, so it is 0. And then again, obviously, then the next one would be 0 as well. The number of students who were denied graduation because they did not pass one of the assessment requirements. The answer to that is 0 as well. Any questions from board members about the NJGPA or the graduation report before I? All right. So at this point, I'd like to call up Mrs. Suzanne Fisher, who is our Director of World Languages, ESL, and Music, and she is going to go over the results from last year's access test.
Thank you, Dr. Goulburn. Good evening. The Access for MLs test, or multilingual learners, is a state-mandated assessment that's given every late winter or early spring to all of our multilingual learners in the district. The test assesses a multilingual learner's proficiency in English in 4 domains: listening, reading, speaking, and writing. The test has a variety of formats depending on the grade level cluster. The kindergarten test is 100% paper-based and is given on a 1-to-1 basis. So the ESL teacher sits individually with each kindergartner for about 45 minutes to administer the exam using picture books, stories, etc. The grade 1 through 5 test is paper-based for the writing section only, and then the rest of the sections are given online where the students are using headphones and microphones to do the listening and speaking sections. The grade 6 through 12 is completely online, and students are using the headphones for the listening and the speaking portions. The students earn a score between 1 and 6 on the exam, and those numbers correlate with WIDA's can-do descriptors. Those descriptors tell us what the multilingual learner can do in English at that particular level. That information is extremely important for our content area teachers who are modifying work for the ML in the classes. Students must receive a 4.5 in order to exit the program and to exit ESL. After they score the 4.5 or higher, we monitor their progress for 2 school years. This past school year, 2024, 128 multilingual learners took the exam in late winter, early spring. You can see the averages that are listed for each building up on the screen there with our highest population at New Albany. The test is very rigorous, it is lengthy, and it is content-based. It can take some multilingual learners years before they are able to earn the 4.5 or higher, which is why we tend to have some lower averages at our elementary schools. This year, 18 students scored a 4.5 or higher and were able to exit ESL, and they will start their monitoring in September.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher. Anybody have any questions about the access results? Again, it's usually a multi-year process to get to that passing score for our ML students. And as I've said many times, a bit of a broken record, my first year in this job, there were 26 ML students in Cinnaminson, and now there are 128. And there were 26 students with a single teacher, and we now have 4.5 people, 4 teachers, and a few world language teachers also on an overload who work with our MLs.
The 18 students who scored the 4.5 or higher, are they predominantly at around what grade level? Or is it really mixed?
Most of the students were exiting from Rush, who had been in the program since New Albany.
Okay.
Any other board members have a question? All right, well, we'll be back in either September or October with our NJSL. If you enjoyed this, we'll be back with our NJSLA results for grades 3 through 9 in either September or October. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Goulburn. You always do a fantastic job.
We can't wait. All right. We're moving on to Section 8, correspondence to the board. I had something that I shared with all the board members from one of our staff members. Other than that, a few emails that we had gotten, but nothing that was not shared so far. So we'll move on to Section 9, the committee reports. We had 3 committee meetings this month, a curriculum meeting, a finance meeting, and a policy meeting. The curriculum meeting was chaired by Mrs. Trompe, and she has a report on that.
Thank you. The Curriculum and Student Activities Committee met virtually on August 19th. Committee members reviewed a proposal from Rush School about piloting a new math club. Mrs. Jones provided the committee with an update on school-wide behavioral expectations for the coming school year at New Albany. The high school administration provided a demo on the new Smart Pass system going into effect this year. Committee members reviewed professional development and field trip requests and were updated on the NJDOE's decision to delay implementation of the new math standards. The committee was briefed on the school calendar adjustments on this evening's agenda. Lastly, the committee heard from Mrs. DeSimone regarding changes to middle school protocols related to backpacks and cell phones. That is all.
Thank you, Mrs. Trompe. Our Finance and Personnel Committee also met, and Mr. Bromhall has a
Yep, thank you.
summary.
I do. The Finance and Personnel Committee meeting took place on Monday, August 5th at 9 a.m. via Google Meet. During the personnel portion of the meeting, Mr. Capello reviewed staffing for the 24-25 school year. Additionally, Mr. Capello also gave a brief legal update and reviewed important upcoming dates. And the committee was informed of a recent policy committee recommendation. During the finance portion of the meeting, Mrs. Livinggood and Ms. Tomkowitz reviewed the current bus driver salary guide and presented a proposal for a revised guide for the upcoming school year. And at the conclusion of the meeting, Mrs. Livinggood provided an update regarding the withdrawal of capital reserve to purchase 2 learning cottages. One will be at the New Albany School and the other will be at the Rush School. And the withdrawal and purchase are on the agenda this evening. The next meeting hasn't been scheduled yet. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bromhall. There was also a policy committee meeting. Mr. Evans?
The Policy and Legislation Committee met on July 31st via Google Meet. Members of the committee reviewed the latest policy alert from Strauss Esme. The committee reviewed the recommended language updates and changes to a group of policies and corresponding regulations, most of which are included on the board agenda for adoption this evening. The committee also engaged in an ongoing discussion about a request to amend Board Policy 2431. The following statement is being offered to address this request. At our March 19th Board of Education meeting, a member of the community requested a review and amendment to Policy 2431 with the goal of allowing homeschool students to participate in district sports. Over the last 5 months, the Policy Committee conducted several meetings with Cinnaminson school stakeholders and the individual who requested the policy review. We also consulted with the New Jersey School Boards Association, school board members in other districts, and the school districts themselves. After careful consideration, the committee's recommendation is that Policy 2431 remains as it is, and no revisions will be made at this time. The prevailing reason for this committee's recommendation is its concerns about fairness. It is important to remember that co-curriculum activities, such as athletics, are an extension of our educational program. Participation in any co-curricular activity is contingent upon our students maintaining their grades and adhering to the code of conduct. While we recognize the importance of providing our students with opportunities to learn and challenge themselves outside a classroom setting, we do so by ensuring that they remain accountable to their educational program first and foremost. We have no ability to ensure homeschool students are similarly accountable, which can create an unfair advantage and undermine our educational growth as a district. As the Cinnaminson Board of Education, our authority is limited to setting policies that impact students enrolled in our district. Homeschool students are outside our purview and are governed by guidelines that differ from the policies set by the Board of Education. The policies we establish are designed to ensure that we are meeting educational standards while providing a safe and supportive learning environment for the students of the Cinnaminson School District. Before making the decision, the committee took careful consideration of the fact that we live in a town that offers a multitude of travel and recreation sports teams to children, regardless of the educational program or school they're enrolled in. As the chairperson of the Policy and Legislation Committee, I want to take a moment to thank everyone who weighed in on this policy review. We appreciate your time and input. It was an informative exercise for our committee to undertake. Thank you. The next meeting of the Policy and Legislation Committee has not been scheduled at this time.
Ms. Blystein, can I have a motion to approve Section 9, letter A?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Trempe. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Mr. Meeker?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion approved. Moving on to Section 10, public comment on agenda items. Members of the public are reminded that comments should be limited to items appearing on this meeting's agenda. There will be another opportunity during this meeting to comment on non-agenda items. All members of the public wishing to speak on agenda items only should raise their hand to indicate their wish to speak. When called upon, participants should state their first and last name and address clearly for the record. In accordance with Cinnaminson Board of Education Bylaw 0164.6, comments will be limited to a maximum of 4 minutes per person, and the comment period will be limited to 30 minutes in duration. Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, the board will not publicly discuss or comment on matters involving personnel, litigation, negotiations, or the attorney-client privilege. The board may choose not to respond to comments made by members of the public during this portion of the meeting. However, all comments will be given appropriate consideration. Matters requiring follow-up will be referred to the superintendent for resolution. Please be aware that all board employees retain the right to privacy and shall retain all rights against defamation and slander according to the laws of New Jersey. The board shall not be held liable for comments made by members of the public. And with that said, does anyone have anything to comment on agenda items?
Welcome back. So I apologize, I didn't have as much time to prepare. I wish the agenda came out a week in advance. I can read everything that you guys put in there. But I do have a few questions. So I'm Edie, Winwood Drive. So the first one is, with the new Smart Pass system that requires children in high school to have access to their cell phone at all times to, I'm assuming, go to the bathroom, what happens when they don't? What if a child doesn't have a cell phone? What happens then? How do they get that pass? Where would I be able to find the guidelines for that particular implementation? Because I haven't been able to find them. I'm a little concerned because if my daughter forgets her cell phone, what happens then? So that's one. In reference to the policy for homeschool children, just out of curiosity, the Board of Education can hold a public for like an open listening session for the public. You mentioned stakeholders. I would love to know who those stakeholders were. If you had a public listening session, you probably would have gotten input from the public that live here, not just certain key members that you would like to listen to. Just a suggestion, listening sessions are awesome. Other schools do them. They provide a lot of feedback from the citizens in the community, not just from the members that are sitting in front of us right now. Another one, there's a list of tutors that you published in this agenda. I would love to know how my child can access these tutors. Then I wouldn't have to pay every single month for private tutoring. So if I can get a how of how my kid can tap into these resources, or any other kid in the district can tap into these resources, that would be wonderful. Next question, in reference to finance, you have a breakdown of IDEA funding. I would love to know what other purchase services for $750,000 are under that funding. What would be considered other purchased services? By the way, there's a lot of other buckets in the financials, and they're never explained what they are. And there's quite a bit of money in that other bucket. It's a little concerning that it seems like every time something doesn't want to be explained, it just gets put in other. And with the new Oprah regulations where I have to pay for Oprah, makes it a little hard and expensive. So I think that's, no, last one, sorry. We adapted a new provider for mental health. So I printed that contract, or the one that you actually published. And maybe I'm wrong in the way it reads, but it almost gives a blanket information release to this provider of all of our child's records. And then on top of that, that provider has the right to share that with other partners that they have. I really hope I'm reading that wrong. And if I'm not, then how do I opt out of that completely so my child never has that and doesn't have that in the school, and her information cannot be shared or released without my consent? So that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Poplawski. You enumerated 5 items, and as I have in the past, I'll certainly respond to you and happy to meet with you in person about those items. So thank you for your comments. Any other members of the public who'd like to comment on agenda items at this time? Moving on.
Okay. We're moving on to Section 11, Personnel, Certificated and Non-Certificated. Mr. Capello.
Yeah, I had a feeling this would be right around the time when the internet crashed out on me again. So going analog here. Under Personnel, Section 11, we are seeking the board's approval. Just came through. Under letter A for appointments and reappointments. Under item number 1, letters A through Q for certificated staff, and then non-certificated staff seeking approval of items A through Q. They are listed in the agenda. Under letter B, transfers. Have any more luck than me? We are seeking the board's approval for, bear with me for a second.
I got you.
There we go. Items 1 and 2, items 1 through 3, and they are listed in the agenda. Under letter C, resignations and retirements, we are seeking the board's approval for the resignations and retirements listed by certificated and non-certificated staff as listed in the agenda. Under letter D, extra duty appointments, we are seeking the board's approval for items 1 through 5, and those names are listed in the agenda. And then under non-certificated staff, and then there is one item under certificated staff for the board's consideration as well. Under letter E, leaves of absence. Seeking the board's approval for items 1 through 8 as listed by employee number in the agenda. Under letter F, teacher overloads, seeking the board's approval for items number 1 and 2 as listed in the agenda. Under advancements on the salary guide, letter G, seeking the board's approval for items number 1 and 2 as listed in the agenda. Yes, as listed in the agenda. Under letter H, mentor teachers, seeking the board's approval for item number 1, and the names along with the corresponding mentor teacher are listed in the agenda. Under letter I, student teachers, there are 2 student teachers for the board's consideration. They are listed in the agenda under items number 1 and 2. Substitute teachers, coming through in just a second. Seeking the board's approval for items number 1 through 3. Those names are listed in the agenda. Under letter K, tutors, seeking the board's approval for just number 1, and those names are attached. Under letter L, job descriptions, seeking the board's approval for item number 1 under job descriptions. And under salary guide, letter M, seeking the board's approval for item number 1, new salary guide for transportation department as listed in the agenda. Those are personnel items for consideration by the board, so seeking approval on letters A through M.
Thank you, Mr. Capello. Mr. Meeker, can I have a motion to approve Section 11, Personnel, Certificated, Non-Certificated, items A through M?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Trempe. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Mr. Evans?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, except I will abstain from item 11J, number 1. Motion approved. Moving on.
Before we move on,
Oh,
Mrs.
that's
Fitzwater, we do have a number of our new staff members who have taken time to be here this evening, and I do apologize, it's getting a little later than we would like. So at this point, I would ask any of our principals who have staff member in your respective buildings to introduce any new staff members who came out this evening to members of our board, and then I will follow that quickly by no one at all will be offended if you choose to leave after that, because we do need you for new teacher orientation at 8 o'clock in the morning. So at this point, we'll go in student birth order. Mrs. Jones? We have a microphone tonight.
I was hoping he was going to start over by.
Thank you so much. I have several new staff members to introduce. I'll start over on that side. I'd like to introduce Brenna McNair, who is joining New Albany as a part-time PE teacher. She is a graduate from Rowan University. Next to her is Miss Jackie McDermott. She is joining our kindergarten team, and she is coming to us as a seasoned kindergarten teacher with 13 years experience from Florence. Let's see, I'm coming over here. All right, Kate Ormsby is going to be the New Albany nurse. She is a graduate of Chamberlain University and received her nursing degree from Our Lady of Lourdes. Behind her, we have Miss Asia Jones. Linda Colella is here as well to support. She is joining us as our new part-time counselor, and we are happy to have her on board. We have Leandra Sicali, who is joining us as a special education teacher, and she is a graduate of Rutgers University. And finally, we have Jillian Weiler, who is joining our preschool teaching team, and she is a graduate of Westchester University. Thank you.
Congratulations, everyone. Welcome. Mrs.
Thank
Bailey?
you. Good evening. This evening, we're joined by one new addition to the Rush family, and that is Miss Cassandra Shields. She is a graduate of Rowan University, and she'll be teaching vocal music at Rush. Welcome. No, you don't have anybody? Here you go, sir.
So finishing off the hiring season at the high school, I'm excited to welcome two new members to our social studies department. We have Anthony Fermani. He will be with us full-time for the entire year in a social studies position. He comes to us from Eastern University in Pennsylvania. We also have Mr. Ben Ross, who will be filling a long-term sub position for us from September to December. So we're super excited to be adding two very strong members to our team.
Mr. Creel, we enjoyed watching you run across so much that the microphone does need to go back to the other side.
Thank you, Mr. Gorman. Last but not least, I'd like to introduce two new members to the Child Study Team. We have two new BCBAs, Board Certified Behavioral Analysts. We have Lauren DeVici, and we have Katie Neely. Welcome, ladies.
It does need to go back to Mrs. Jones. She's got one more to introduce.
Getting your steps in, Mr. Creel.
Who is it? Yeah.
I apologize. Joining me as my counterpart as an assistant principal is Miss Jeanette Oliver.
Thank you. As I echoed the sentiments earlier today at new teacher orientation, and certainly when I met with you and offering you the positions, this is a wonderful district. You're going to find a great home, and we all hope that you retire from here many, many, many years from now, and that you find this job very fulfilling. I think you will find a wonderful home here in Cinnaminson. So congratulations and welcome. Go out and buy some more black and red, and any new staff members, again, you are excused. You have an early morning tomorrow. So thank you for being here this evening.
All right, and now we're moving on to Section 12, Curriculum and Instruction, and Dr. Goldburn.
Thank you very much. Under number 12, letter A, professional development requests, requesting board approval for numbers 1 through 4. Under letter B, field trips, requesting approval of those attachments. Nothing under C this month. Under letter D, curriculum, numbers 1 and 2. Under letters E and F, the HIB and suspension report. Those are from the time period of the June board meeting and the last day of school. Letter G, evaluation instruments, readopting the instruments, numbers 1 and 2 for our certified staff members. Letter H, revision to the 2024-2025 school calendar, which makes Friday, May 16th a half-day for our middle school and high school students. Letter I, all New Jersey public school districts are now required to submit an emergency remote instruction plan, and that is attached. And under letter J, approving the piloting of a new math club, the Crazy Eights, they would be called, at Rush School for the 24-25 school year. And I just did want to add one thing. Mr. Capello, you had a very, very long report, but I also wanted to point out that my colleague, former colleague at the middle school, Mr. Bill Sin, was recognized as an all-pro educator for the Philadelphia Eagles, got himself a grant as well as 4 tickets to a game, so everybody be nice to Mr. Sin. Congratulations to him. Just wanted to make sure he got his due as well for the good work that he does at Cinnaminson Middle School.
Thank you.
And those are the requests for the curriculum department this month.
Thank you, Dr. Goldburn. Mrs. Trompe, can I have a motion to approve Section 12, Curriculum and Instruction, items A through J?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Mr. Meeker?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion approved. Moving on to Section 13, Special Education. Mrs. Llewellyn?
Thank you, Mrs. Fitzwater. Under letter A, contracts, there are none. Under letter B, student placements, there are none. And under letter C, consultant agreement, seeking the board to approve the following consultant agreements as requested by the district for the 2024-25 school year. There are 8 listed in the agenda with their attached rates. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Llewellyn. Mr. Evans, can I have a motion to approve Section 13, Special Education, item C?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Trompe. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Mr. Meeker?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion approved. Moving on to Section 14, Policy and Regulations. Mr. Capello?
Thank you, Mrs. Fitzwater. Seeking the board's approval for items under policy, numbers 1, number 2, and number 3. Number 1 is the adoption, approval of the code of conduct for each school as required by CUSAC. Number 2, a list of policies that were discussed at committee. And number 3, some policies that are recommended by our Strauss Esme to be abolished from the district. So those items are up for consideration of the board. With your approval, numbers 1 through 3.
Thank you, Mr. Capello. Mr. Kenny, can I have a motion to approve Section 14 Policy, letter A?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Mr. Meeker?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion approved. Moving on to Section 15, Business and Finance. Mrs. Livingood.
Thank you, Mrs. Fitzwater. Under Section A, grants, item number 1, Item number 1A, that the board accepts the revised 23-24 funding statement for services under Chapter 192-193 is attached, that the board accepts the fiscal year 24 extraordinary aid allocation as attached, and that the board accepts the fiscal year 24 homeless reimbursement allocation as attached. Item number 2, that the board approves the submission of the fiscal year 25 ESSA grant as attached. Item number 3A, that the board approves the submission of the fiscal year 25 IDEA grant as attached, and item B, that the board approves partial teacher salary payment to be paid from that grant as listed below and attached. Section B, Finance. Item number 1, that the board approves the mileage reimbursement request for the staff members as attached. Item number 2, that the board approves the estimated tuition rates and hourly service rates for the 24-25 school year as attached. Item number 3, that the board approves the establishment of the following petty cash accounts listed effective July 1, 2023 for the July 1, 2024 for the 24-25 school year as attached. Item number 4, that the board accepts with appreciation the donation of $500 from the Cinnaminson Police Department to the Rush School for the end of the year student activities. Item number 5, that the board approves the withdrawal from capital reserve in the amount of $345,000 for other projects for the New Albany Elementary School temporary classroom unit. Item number 6, that the board approves the withdrawal from capital reserve in the amount of $345,000 for the Eleanor Rush School temporary classroom unit. Item number 7, that the board approves the purchase of 2 temporary classroom units, one at the New Albany Elementary School and one at the Rush School, as per attached. Item number 8, that the board approves the Educational Services Commission of New Jersey to advertise for the bid of the lease purchase financing for 3 Wolfington school buses, as attached. Section C, operations. Item number 1, that the board approves the closure of the Jim Robinson Award at the request of the award's sponsor. Item number 2, that the board approves the 24-25 county facility approval forms as listed below and attached. And under D, contracts, item number 1, that the board approve the revised list of anticipated contracts for the 24-25 school year. Item number 2A, that the board approves the agreement between the Cinnaminson Board of Education and the Cooper Health System for school specialty physician services, as attached. And item number B, that the board approves the agreement between the Cinnaminson Board of Education and Insight Health for health services, as attached. Item number 3, that the board approves the joint transportation agreement between Cinnaminson Board of Education, the host district, and Camden City School District as the joiner. Item number 4, that the board approves the settlement agreement between the Cinnaminson Board of Education and the Cinnaminson Education Association, as attached. And B, that the board approves the settlement agreement between the Cinnaminson Township Board of Education and Altria, as attached. Thank you, Mrs. Fitzwater.
Thank you, Ms. Livingood. Ms. Iacone, can I have a motion to approve Section 15, Business and Finance, items A through D?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Trempe. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Mr. Meeker?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion approved. Moving on to Section 16, Other Business. Mr. Capello?
We do have one item under other business this evening, and seeking the board's approval for the standing orders from our school physician so that our nurses can work under that charge for the 24-25 school year. Those standing orders are attached under other business in the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Capello. Mr. Bromhall, can I have a motion to approve Section 16, Other Business, item A?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kenny. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Mr. Evans?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion approved. Moving on to Section 17, Public Comment. During the public comment section of the meeting, the board will seek public comment on any item. Members of the public are reminded that if they wish to speak when called upon, participants should state their first and last name and address clearly for the record in accordance with the Cinnaminson Board of Education Bylaw 0164.6. Comments will be limited to a maximum of 4 minutes per person, and the comment period will not exceed 30 minutes. We'll mention that the same continued dialogue that I mentioned during the original public comment applies to this section as well.
Hello, good evening. Welcome back. We're glad to be here again. We're the Cinnaminson CPAG. We have shirts now, so people can identify us.
That's awesome.
Feel free to follow our social media. We wanted to provide an update on some of the things that we accomplished last year and our plan for this upcoming school year. We wanted to remind the public what a CPAG is. This is a special education parent advisory group. This is a state-mandated, district-level, parent-driven group charged with providing input to the local school district on systemic-level challenges in special education and related services. The New Jersey Administrative Code states that each district's Board of Education shall ensure that a special education parent advisory group is in place in the district and to provide input to the district on issues concerning students with disabilities. The mission of the Cinnaminson CPAG is to help students with disabilities succeed academically and socially by providing feedback to the district on policies and programs that affect special education. We will try to do this by empowering families through knowledge and understanding, ensuring a space for parents to have a safe, free, and unbiased exchange of information, bridging the gap between parents, school administrators, and teachers, and we're focused on providing a supportive, collaborative environment for all. During the 2023-24 school year, some of our highlights were holding 4 meetings. We created a public Facebook page and relaunched our private Facebook group for parents. We surveyed parents who attended our meetings. We sent emails and newsletters and updates. We connected with other CPAG leaders throughout New Jersey, and we attended various trainings throughout the school year. We'd like to thank Mr. Capello for having us today at New Teacher Orientation, and we are really happy to have all of our new teachers. I know that they already left, but thank you for letting us attend that event and introduce ourselves today.
Thank you for coming.
Edie's going to take over.
Okay. So the goals for the current school year, 2024 to 2025, we want to expand the executive board and general membership. Any district parents with an interest in special education in our town are welcome. We want to establish bylaws, continue to collaborate with other CPAGs across the state, hold at least 5 meetings throughout the year, some with guest speakers, continue attending relevant trainings and Board of Education meetings, liaison between building principals or with building principals, meeting regularly with Mr. Capello, to review successes and concerns raised by our members. We would love to possibly set up a superintendent roundtable with parents. Board of Education liaison, request that a board member be designated as a liaison to the CPAC to attend meetings and share updates with the board. We have a couple of things that are already in the pipeline planned. The upcoming dates, our first meeting of the year will be an open house on Thursday, September 19th from 6 to 8 at the Community Center in Cinnaminson. We will have a virtual meeting the following Monday at 12:30 in the afternoon for anyone that can't make it in the evening. Children are always welcome to these open houses and meetings. We have meetings scheduled for October, November, and December. December's meeting will be a virtual presentation by NJCIE, which is the New Jersey Coalition for Inclusive Education. We are particularly excited about this one because their presentation to the district in March 2023 was well attended, and we received a lot of positive feedback on it. Again, follow us on Facebook. You can scan our shirts for more details, more updates. What's not on here, we also have a meeting that the Department of Developmental Disabilities will be presenting on transitional planning for any older children. You can also email us at cinnacpag@gmail.com to be added to our email list for updates. And then thank you for your time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. We do like the shirts, recommending some red and black, but just, not much. But thank you for that, and I look forward to I believe we have a meeting on the books in October.
You're so long. Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Heyman. I live at 117 White Birch Drive. First, I want to start out by saying I don't really have as called skin in the game here in Cinnaminson. I obviously in my early 20s, so I don't have any kids, clearly. And I grew up going through the Mount Laurel school system. I graduated Lenape High School amidst the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. What compelled me to come here today is I've seen, as being active in the community, I've seen a lot of discourse on the supposed cell phone ban through the middle school. And being a young person hasn't graduated that much earlier, as I like to think anyway, I think I could bring a unique perspective about our relationships with cell phone as a young person or a younger person. I've seen a lot of people say that, when they were in school, they obviously didn't have cell phones or they didn't have X, Y, or Z. Honestly, our relationship with technology and with other things have changed over the years. Our cell phones have become more fundamental, more needed during our daily lives. When I was in middle school, cell phones were around and a lot of people had them. I didn't use it, and I had it in my locker most of the time. But
But as the years have gone on, our cell phones have become more fundamental. The need to reach parents, or the need for parents to reach kids, have become more necessary over the years. And as somebody with a chronically ill parent and somebody who, when I was going through high school, had a older relative living with us due to health reasons, I needed my phone. I wanted my phone to make sure in case there was a doctor's appointment or I needed to know at the minute kind of thing. Obviously, that's my circumstance and everybody is different, but everybody has a sick relative. Everybody has an older relative. I feel like everybody has a reason why they need to have their cell phone with them. My second point being, I think this could be kind of an easy pipeline for kids to get in trouble with, because you're always going to have kids that sneak their phones or have their phones with them, regardless of how much they try to prevent them from having it for a host of reasons. So I would just be concerned, if anything, that it could kind of make it easy for kids to get in trouble more and more and more again, because it starts out with the verbal warning and then take your phone away and then kind of quickly accelerate through here. Honestly, I don't even know if this is something that the board has authority over or something that it can control, but I think it would be much better discourse to have here more than anywhere else, including Facebook. So I just wanted to give my perspective. Again, I don't have any kids. I didn't grow up through the Cinnaminson school system, but as somebody who just likes to pay attention in the community and somebody who, at least I think, is on the younger side anyway, being 22, I just wanted to give my perspective and thoughts that you guys can take with you or talk to the necessary people. And I just want to say I appreciate the work that you all do. I know the kind of the aggression towards school board members have kind of, at least publicity-wise, decreased over the years since we're getting out of the pandemic. But nonetheless, the work that you guys do is fundamental, and I personally appreciate all the work you do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public who'd like to address the board at this time on any matters?
Okay. We're going to go to comments from the board. Mr. Kenny?
It's a quick one tonight. Thank you to everyone who contributed to preparing our schools for the school year. I know a lot of people were mentioned throughout the meeting. I don't want to leave anybody out, but we appreciate everybody's work. Thank you to the members of the community who came out tonight, especially those who spoke during the meeting. And thank you to the Cinnaminson Police Department for their donation to the schools. Good luck to all of our students, family, and staff. We hope you all have a fantastic school year. And welcome to all of our new staff members. We hope you find a new home in Cinnaminson. The next regularly scheduled meeting is September 24th at 7 p.m. right here in the middle school cafetorium, and more information can be found on the district website. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
No. One more comment from the board, but I'll throw it to Mr. Capello since he has a little bit more history here.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzwater. I just wanted to take a second to recognize one of our retirees, Mr. Dave Schroeder, who is retiring after a long 27-year career here in Cinnaminson, and I wanted to publicly thank him for his service to the students throughout the district, and didn't want the board meeting to go by without specifically recognizing him and all of our retirees for the work that they do. So to Mr. Schroeder, we wish you the very best in the next phases of your life, and congratulations on a well-deserved retirement. So
thank you.
Appreciate you letting me get that in.
Yeah. With that, we did not finish our earlier business, so we are going to convene back into executive session. We may take one action when we come back. Mr. Bromhall, can I have a motion to return to executive session?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Trempe. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are going back into executive session. Thank Can I have a motion to reconvene the public meeting?
We good, Mr. Crew?
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're back in public session. Mr. Capello, we're going back to other business.
Thank you, Mrs. Fitzwater. Mrs. Fitzwater indicated we are under Section 16, Other Business. There is now an item number 2, that the board authorizes the superintendent of schools to enter into a lease agreement with Colonial Square Associates for the premises located at 2103 Branch Pike, following review and in consultation with board counsel. Seeking the board's approval on 16A2.
That's it?
That's it.
All right. Mr. Evans, can I have a motion to approve 16A2?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Trempe. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. That motion is approved. And now we are going to, Mr. Kenny, motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Trempe. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?